In this video, we're going to show you some tips and tricks on gearboxes and transfer boxes, putting them together and setting them up, and some installation tips. So now it's time to assemble this R380 to the transfer box, but this video applies to all Land Rover boxes really, with a removable transfer box. I'm going to show you some little tips and tricks, like balance points for lifting them in, tips to lift them in, how to put them together, and most importantly, how you set these linkages up so we can film it here on top of the bench so it's a bit more clear. Now, first of all, if you can remember this oil pump dilemma I had with this thing here, we bought another pump. Well, customer supplied another pump, and it leaked again out of that hole. How odd. Now, I don't know what it was, what I was thinking about, but I changed the Ashcroft screws to the original screws, and it stopped leaking. Now, to me, looking at them without my micrometer eyes in, I couldn't tell the difference. So what is the difference? I don't know. So I left it 24 hours and it didn't leak. So I wasn't really happy with that. So I set it rolling again for 3 hours, let the oil get warm, and left it overnight, and it stopped leaking. So I thought, well, just for belt and braces, I dropped the oil out. What am I about? And I put a smear of high-low sil on the back of the head of here and screwed it in. And they have gone a little bit deeper than these, and it didn't leak. Well, I put the oil back in. It's had more oil in and out this than bloody Saudi Arabia's got. So I put the oil back in, again, warmed it up, screws back in, no leaks. No leaks after 24 hours means it's not going to leak at all. So that's good. So the first things we're going to do, we're going to get this gearbox off here, and then I'm going to pick up the transfer case and put it onto my table, and then fit the gearbox on, and then we can talk about this setup. So I'm going to just pause now because it's going to be a busy day, and hopefully we can help you get your gearbox in and out without any tears. Okay, so I've got the LT230 on my stand here. That's the one I work on and test on, and if you're going to do a few of these, make one. It's really worthwhile. I'll show you in a minute the tool that I actually lift these in. I'll do that with a different section of this video, but for now, things to notice, or things how I do them. I mentioned once before, instead of putting bolts in here, I put studs. You see, put little studs in there, because this top one in particular, as we found out, if it's too long, it will hit the gear inside. Yeah, a bit annoying because it makes a tick tick sound, but if you put the bolt in and it's too long, what will happen is the bolt will go in, and then when the gear hits it, it bends it. So when you want to take it out again, you'll ruin all that casting there. And sometimes it's too big to put a helicoil in, so just be careful of that. The bolts that go in from this way are a different length to that way, so it's kind of easy to get mixed up. So there's one thing. Don't forget to take the cap out when you put it in. I mean, I'm sure somebody's done it. The other thing you've got to check for, make sure the dowels are in place. Now this is really important, because it really is a pain in the ass when you get it so far up and then you find there's a gap, because you've got two dowels facing each other. This is when you've got a replacement gearbox or replacement transfer case, and you've got dowels in one side and dowels in the other, so it only needs one in here and one little one right down at the bottom. They do come out, so just double check that, because it's the same on the bell housing. There's two dowels on the bell housing diagonally opposite. Just make sure, if you're putting another gearbox in with a different bell housing, that the dowels are either in, both of them are in the adapter, or both of them are in the bell housing. Very important. You can see probably here that we've got the sleeved bush JP makes. We do them all now with the sleeved bush because we found nearly every one of them's knackered. And whilst I'm here, I might as well say the lifting point for these is here. That's just a general way of moving these things about. It isn't perfect, but it works for me because it drops it onto here and that's it. But the problem is, if you're putting the gearbox onto this now, you've got to take this off because it goes through one of the bolt holes. So we'll take it off and then we'll turn this around. Now, one of the modifications I made to my bench, well, it's not much of a modification, but I put a bit of sheet steel down so that once that's on here I can turn this around and it's going to be fine. You know, it's easy to line up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring in the R380 and take the cap out and get the oil can out, and then we should be ready to lift it in. Right, so I brought the gearbox in. Now you'll have noticed I've got a strap going directly under the remote here. Right in between these two levers is a beautiful pivot point, you know, balance point. That means you can move this around left, right and centre and no problems at all. And again, the reason why I put studs in here doesn't have to make it easy to go back in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some oil on the shaft. Why not grease, Mike? Well, I've learnt over the years that grease can block the hole up, and sometimes if these boxes have been stood a long time, you know the hole in the gear, it can block it up and go dry if the gearbox has been stood a long time, so that's the reason why. Right, let's bolt this together. I better get some nuts out, eh? Get my nuts out. So here we go. Now, another thing is, what I've worked out over the years is, this table is not only slidability, but it's also on wheels, so I can move it left, right, centre, and you know, backwards and forwards. Enough of that. Let's get this on. Make sure it's in gear. That's it. We'll just put a temporary nut on here. Now, this point here, once you've got your transfer box on, will balance both the gearbox and the transfer box at the same time, so it makes it a joy for moving around. The problem is we've only got one lift, so we've got to take a sling off here and move this. This is where it gets a bit tricky, but not too bad. Because there. Now that will allow us to lift that up, and because you see I want to set this up so you can see how I do the linkages. So let me get all this lot bolted up and I'll show you some other bits and pieces. So the next thing we're going to fit is this adjustable eye. It's wise to tap out the hole here and run a die nut down the thread, because you want this as free as possible, because it's going to make life so much more easier. Now, there is supposed to be some clips to go on here to hold the breather pipes on, which we haven't got. But it's not the end of the world. You can always put a cable tie around them. It's not that bad. Now the problem is, as usual, we don't know where that eye is going to be. We have no idea, so that's why we're going to try and set it up. Right, so what we need now is some bushes. Now I've got these little things here to tell you what's been going on with these gearboxes, but unfortunately with all the messing about, they've come off. So the first thing we're going to fit is the diff lock. Where does the diff lock go? Alright, so let's get some bushes, because we don't know what's on this spline. We don't know where it is, it's just as it came. Hopefully it should be alright. Now the pin's missing, which isn't the end of the world, but we'll see. Because when this is in neutral, we want that gear stick in neutral, that shifter. So what we do is we'll set it into neutral now. Is that in neutral? No, that's in what I have low range. That's neutral. Okay? Yeah, because I test them in high range. So that That's high range, that's neutral, that's where it wants to be. Now, just before I get some bushes, this again is going to be another part about how to fit this gearbox. These are a nightmare to get into the car if you've left the plastic tunnel in. I always take the plastic tunnels out. I might repeat myself later, but it does speed the job up tremendously. Right, so I've got my bits together. Got some grease. Can't have enough grease. The grease will hold the bushings in whilst you put them into place. 1, 2. Put this over here and get this pin in. This pin is a difficult one to get in. This one's not so bad. I think so. On some of them there was a rib going across here on the transfer case. Oh man, they were a nightmare to get in. But this is a... Is this an early? Oh, it's an 03 gearbox. I quickly found one that was a bit better, rather than cleaning that one up and filing it. And this is one of the problems. You've got to make sure all these bits fit together before you put your gearbox in. So we put the pin in, and then we take the clip, and at the back there's a little groove in the pin. Push it down. It should clip in. Sometimes a bit tight. Yeah. So I'm quite happy with that now. So I'm going to put some more grease on there. We shouldn't have to adjust the adjuster rod, but just in case, we'll put some grease on for the future. Now, is our lever going to select the gears? Because like I said, this gearbox, this kit came with the gearbox so high, low. Oh, look at that. There, look at that, perfect. So what you want is this in the middle, like this away. If it isn't, this is where it gets tricky, because like I said, this setup came off this gearbox and it was a combo, so it's already been set up. If it isn't, take off this lever here, undo the pinch nut, pull this out, put this into neutral, and then find the neutral spot of here, like halfway in between, and then just slide this on and pinch it up. That's all there is to it. And now we'll do the tricky one. Oh yeah, I think I'll take that label off there because you can't see too much, can you? Right, now we're going to put this piece together, this diff lock linkage. This is the piece that catches a lot of people out. Now, when this gearbox came, it came with this little staple that holds this piece to this piece, right? Now this is the old type. You look very carefully, it's got some roll pins that go through here, and these can be easily compromised. You know, when you're in a rush and you get stuck in mud and stuff like that, you can actually snap these pins here. So the modification was this type. You see they've just stamped two little lugs on, a lot better. Now the diff lock itself confuses quite a few people, so we'll zoom in. When the diff lock is out, it's pointing towards the front of the car. When the diff lock is in, it's at an angle, say, well, if that was 12 o'clock, it's like 1 o'clock. You can actually put the lever that way, but that doesn't do anything whatsoever. Diff lock is only in and out, there's no neutral. So what we're going to do is establish, we'll take this off here, so we want to get that, so that is almost in line, and you notice they're a different height. Different height. So the long one goes in the diff lock and the other one goes in that arm. So I think what we'll do is, before we start messing about with this too much, we'll put this pin in here because we can't adjust this, And we've got two new wee clips here that push on to the bottom of the staple like that, and they don't really come off. So with the staple in, I put the clips on underneath. Like I say, this length is shorter, this length is longer than that one. That's the short one, that's the long one. So the long one goes in this end. Now, if you haven't got this little lever, a lot of people take the diff lock lever off and lose this bit. But unfortunately you can't buy it separately. It comes with all the piece that goes inside, so you need to find a used one. So whilst I was doing that, I loosened off the nut and bolt that goes in here, that holds that lever on, and I've put this sort of into diff lock, this lever into diff lock, alright? And this is in diff lock, so really, if we think about it, if we put this onto here, this bushing, and then put that bushing into there, with that in diff lock, we will find out that we have to move. Let's see if I move the desk a little bit. You see the hole doesn't line up. It line up's there, but it doesn't line up there. That's diff lock in, so that should be here. So we need to move this. Is it in or out? Well, let's try it anyway. I don't know. Let's put it back in. No, I'll have to move it in. Ah, see? Now, that's starting to look promising. As long as we can get the nut on. And this wants to be vertical. Right? And we want that so it's going to be its maximum. That's going to be good. Bushing. Oh, put some grease on it first. Because I think we're going to get a one-shot go at this. That's going to be good. Back again. So the clip should be open like that. The other one, the two little lips here were closed and it wouldn't go in. That's how easy it is to fix. So next, we need to put that nut and bolt through there. So there should be a washer between the arm and the balls and the pin there. So we put one through there, and then we put that one on there. This one on here. As I said before, if I can't remember, these are a 7 and an 8mm. Strange size, isn't it? That's a 6. Going through all your toolbox now looking for a bloody 7mm. Now this must have a locking nut on, but it doesn't have to be monster tight because you need some free play in it. Now this is only an initial setup to see what we've got. There we go. Bingo. That's it. That's in diff lock. That's all you need to know. Perfect. So the next thing to do, once we've got that, tighten that jam nut up there. Lots of grease around here. Because I know you guys, not a lot of you use these things, but when you do they're all seized up. And a lot of grease around that pivot too. Make sure all the bushings are in all these pivots. Some of them I've seen that they're missing, and it makes it a real mess, you know, mess on. The grease will help protect it from water and rust. And we'll put some underneath here as well, because these tend to rust up as well because nobody ever uses them, and because this has got an ATB, I don't think the diff lock's ever going to get used, but it's nice to have. So the moral of this video is that you can see how difficult it is to do this on the car with the cover on. It's a nightmare. Just got to double check that nut. That's good. I'll put it back and put a bit of grease on there as well. And that is the setup. It's kind of easy really. Now the next thing is I'm going to tell you how to sling these.